Now I'm very excited to welcome back an amazing handicapper and great friend of the show in Josh Nunn from the Action Network. You can follow Josh on X at StepONADuck1. Josh, here we are. Thanks for coming back to talk more pigskin. How's the week treating you?
Really good, man. It's week 4 already. This season comes and goes and flies by quickly, and so we got to strap in for the remaining part of the schedule. But yeah, it's an interesting slate this week, and shoring up the card pretty well here on this Wednesday. How about you?
I am just been studying and getting in and out of all these games, and I'm excited. I love talking football, and it's a great week because it's week 4, and now I'm curious to hear from you as well as I'm sure our listeners what's significant about this week.
Well, I mean, one of the major questions is Lenora Sellers going to play or not for South Carolina? There was reports early in the week that he was going to be out with the concussion, and now there was some ESPN reporters that had said, well, he's been practicing and he might be a go. So that'll be real interesting to see what happens there. Tons of great games and some good conference games here. Texas Tech and Utah kick things off at 10 o'clock local time there. Nebraska, Michigan will be a good game. SMU, TCU battle for the skillet. I mean, there's just so much good football here this weekend. Some big matchups.
There's some huge matchups coming up, my man. And, week 4 is great because mostly we're getting into conference play finally, right? It's a lot of these teams are finally digging in here, and there's some schedules that are completely out of whack. And I think you can find some advantages based upon the handicapping, just what happened with these schedules. There's a lot of overreaction going on. And, now your homework that you did before the season really comes into fruition because, if you're playing 2 FCS teams and another tomato can, then you can be in for some serious problems coming in. And when people think you're better than you're not. So there's a lot of games like that, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, just the glaring example, in my opinion, would be Texas Tech this weekend. They played Arkansas Pine Bluff and Kent State early on, and then a really down Oregon State team. Now they go on the road to Rice Eccles, and they're gonna be in for it here. So I'll be interested to see how that game plays out.
I'm very interested in seeing that game, and I'm very interested in watching the line move. And that is one of the games you pick from a 6-pack perspective because we always do our 6-pack of games. But before that, let's talk a little buy low, sell high. I always like to do this, and it doesn't mean you're betting on a team. They could have a bye week. It could be something you're saving it for, but give me a little buy low or sell high on a team, and that might come across your radar.
Yeah, we'll keep it to the conference futures, which are now being refreshed weekly, so you can still jump in on these to win the conference markets. I still think North Texas is undervalued. They're 9-1 to win the American. They have a rock-solid defense that's significantly improved, really an under-the-radar schedule that's favorable for the Mean Green. And then in Conference USA, we've seen Liberty put up so many stinkers this year. They are clearly not the cream of the crop. That league is wide open. I think FIU at 10-1 can be a team that you could look at to jump in and really be a major player in that league. So those are two that I think are significantly undervalued in the conference futures market.
Well, there you go. That's great. And there's conference futures markets are always there. So you can capitalize on a lot of what's going on there. I'm gonna go with a buy low on I'm gonna go Kansas. I know they didn't look great with that Missouri mess up, but I thought they were the better team. And I just thought it was kind of some hiccups at the end that need to be cleaned up, a lot of drop passes. And I'm maybe covering this game. We'll see. Wink, wink. So I'm buying low on Kansas a little bit this week and sell high. There's a lot of teams that are just, doing great ATS. And I think that it's important to say that because, you want to look at what you're going through here and you have to look at the competition they played. You kind of stole my thunder with Texas Tech because they are 3-0 against the spread, and there might be a time to start thinking the other way, but they were really loved before they even came in this season, right? And it makes me wonder if it's true, and we're going to find that out this week. Florida International is another one that's 3-0 against the spread, +7 ATS margin, and might sell a little bit high on them. And even the old Buckeyes at 2-0-1, sitting there at +7.2. I'm still not convinced that Sayan's that great yet. And I can't wait till the week after this weekend, and they're going to Washington. That's going to be a play for me,
Massive.
probably just a little bit of a wink, wink right there. So I'm excited for that. There's a Mississippi State's getting a little bit too high, but well, that's probably enough for now. For my buy low, sell high. That's I think that's where I'm going.
Yeah, last one for me, selling high. I could see UNLV struggling this week. Major road trip at Miami of Ohio. Miami hasn't looked overly great this season, but you got a real telling line here with UNLV 3-0. It'd be super easy for everyone to just march in line and grab them laying less than a field goal here, but that's a tough road trip going to MAC country, unfamiliar territory, and something tells me Chuck Martin draws it up here for Miami of Ohio this weekend.
That's very possible. I am scared of what UNLV is going to be facing this weekend on a real, finally a real, well, somewhat of a real team that they're going to face on the road. Well, let's move into our 6-pack of games then, my man. And you picked this one, North Texas versus Army. Army plus 2.5, and total is 50.5. Interesting spot here. Last time we saw Army, yin and yang, losing to Tarleton State, and then obviously beating Kansas State outright. That doesn't age that great. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, that Kansas State Army game really told me a lot more about K-State and their lack of fight, lack of killer instinct. They were up 13-0 and had a chance to shut the door on Army, just couldn't do it, and then just played so pathetically in the second half. You look at North Texas, and the improvements that have been made by Skylar Cassidy, their new defensive coordinator, have been immediate, and they've been stunning up to this point. 2.7 yards per rush surrendered on defense, 230 yards per game given up. Three red zone touchdowns in 3 games is really, really solid. They're 13th in defensive EPA per play, 21st in standard down success, 29th in defensive success rate. Just absolutely rock solid defensively. And they're turning you over. Already 7 turnovers forced this season. They've already seen the option last year with Army. They were the only team outside of Notre Dame in the regular season that was really able to bottle up that explosive Army rushing attack. And now we look at Army this year, obviously missing Bryson Daly and Kanye Udo, only averaging 3.8 yards per rush, and they're 91st in offensive rush explosiveness this season. So they don't have as much zip in the run game as they had last season, and they're really struggling with their success rate as well. 93rd in offensive success rate. So they're going to be behind the sticks here against this defense. I think they're going to have to rely on the quarterback to throw them out of situations. Not a spot that I would want to be in if I'm Army. And I really like Drew Mestamaker with North Texas. 70% completions, 9 touchdowns, hasn't thrown an interception, and has just really taken good care of the football. I think North Texas throws it around on Army. I'm not buying it here with Army. I grabbed UNT +3 earlier in the week, and I'd go take a money line right now on them. They won't need any points. They're going to win this game on the field.
North Texas is going to win this game on the field. That you heard it from Duck here. What's funny about North Texas? Well, they're on the road, but I'm not super worried about that aspect of it. My question, if I had a question for them, they had a relatively easy schedule. Let's face it, Washington State is a Group 5 team, right? Yeah, at least maybe worse. Their defensive rushing EPA is 48th in the nation, and I figured it should be a little bit higher than them on this. Are you at all worried about them facing the option?
Well, not really, because they faced it last season and have familiarity with it, and they held Army to 14 points, and now they've got the defensive coordinator who will be able to scheme it up in Skylar Cassidy. Their run defense is going to be fine here. It's going to be – they're going to throw the ball over the top. Army, their secondary gave it up a ton against Tarleton State, who was in a really bad scheduling spot coming off the week 0 game in Portland, Oregon. Then they had to double back to Army on short rest, and Tarleton threw it around on these guys the entire time. Now, Kansas State can't throw it. Their quarterback, Avery Johnson, is quite the athlete, but he's just doesn't have it between the ears to play quarterback in the Big 12, and you're going to take advantage of that Army secondary by throwing it around. I look for North Texas to have a pretty explosive offensive day, and yeah, I think I'm still low on Army. I still think Army is just a barely a 6-6 bowl team. I don't think they're very good. I don't think they're going to have a great successful season in the American Conference, and it really starts on Saturday when they play against North Texas. I have no issue with North Texas being able to scheme it up against the option.
Yeah, North Texas has been a nice surprise. Actually, not really for you. You talked about them before the season even started, and I was really respectful of that. You and Brad Powers were on this show talking a little bit about North Texas here, and they already proved that they can win on the road at Western Michigan, which is nice. And allowing only 2.78 yards per rush gives me confidence. Army has been trying to be a little bit more of a passing team with 28 attempts over 2 games, right? I find that weird that Army's throwing the ball so much.
Well, they're going to have to do it here too, and they switched quarterbacks too, going away from Dwayne Coleman. So it's going to be interesting to see how the new quarterback takes control of the offense and is able to really run this option offense and gain success, both passing and running the ball. So they're going to go with Cale Helms. I think he's probably a little bit better passer, but not really sure how it's going to look here. It could be a little jerky for Army in the early going against North Texas.
Judge says North Texas outright. I agree with you, Judge. Bobby, what's up? Georgia Tech and North Texas and T. That's who he likes. And Bobby jumped in before I even got to the comments. What's up, boys? Thanks for showing up.
And I want to say too I want to say something about Bobby, because I like Bobby. Bobby's been on your program here in the comments, and there's a lot of other shows I've been on. And Bobby Newport, he is in the chat, and I love that he's tuned in. He's plugged in. He's a loyal listener. Bobby, we appreciate you.
Yes, Bobby, thank you so much. It is so cool to see you, and you are in a lot of places. But that's how I got better. I learned the ropes, is going on shows and learning and picking people's brains. And not saying Bobby needs to learn anything. He seems very sharp. So thanks for coming on and joining us, dude. Yeah. So it's so funny. I do. And Bobby mentioned neutering the playbook. The OC doesn't help there. I agree. And I think this is a play on North Texas for sure. North Texas taking care of business, revenge spot from last year with losing 14-3. But when you're stopping Army to 14 points when they were that force last year, they're completely different this year. It tells you a lot. I'm going to be with you on this play, Josh. I agree. Let's move on to the next game. We have Utah versus Texas Tech. I'm trying to do it from time order too. And we'll get to Thursday and Friday after we do our 6-pack. But Utah versus Texas Tech. Texas Tech -3, total 50.5. So to be honest with you, Duck, I know you picked this one, and I think that I know which way you're leaning. I wrote it wrong. It's Texas Tech versus Utah, actually, and Utah is -3. So I did write that wrong. My apologies. I fixed that now. My number is, from a power rating, is Utah -3.5. So I'm already on that side, but why don't you break it down?
I just look at Texas Tech, and they haven't been tested. We really don't know what we're going to get out of this bunch when they face adversity in a hostile environment. Again, 10 a.m. local time kick. Rice Eccles. Whittingham in the offseason said that his offensive line was the best that he's ever had. A lot of people just took that as coach speak, but just look at the Hogs up front. Those guys are just ferocious. They can run the ball electrically, 6 yards per rush as a team. Utah's converting 72% on third down this season. 15 out of 16 red zone possessions have resulted in touchdowns. They're cashing in situationally when it really matters. The big question for Devon Dampier this offseason was, can he play at this level, and can he cut down on the mistakes? Well, he was playing at New Mexico behind a bottom 10 FBS offensive line last season. If anyone else was back there quarterbacking, they would have taken 45 sacks. What do you see when you have a competent offensive line now with Utah and Devon Dampier quarterbacking? 73% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, has not made a mistake, has not thrown an interception. Utah, to their credit, they've at least been challenged on the road this year. They went to UCLA and dominated. They went to Wyoming, which is no easy place. If you think going to Laradice is an easy place to play, just ask Texas Tech about that.
Yeah.
Texas Tech lost a road game at Wyoming recently. It's a tough place to go. So you look at the Texas Tech stats, they look gaudy, but they played Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent, and a terrible defensive Oregon State team. I just want to see how this team prepares, how conditioned they are, because the third and fourth quarter of this game for Texas Tech is going to look a lot different than their first three games. They're not going to be able to sit and watch from the sidelines as the third string goes in there and runs it up. It's going to be really a different environment, and I think it's a tough spot here for Texas Tech. A good team, but a tough spot here as they've been completely unchallenged.
They have been completely unchallenged. This is a laughable schedule that they have had. But here's my only problem and pause. UCLA sucks. And they prove that. And that's I looked at Utah's trenches and I was like, they finally got trenches. This is the team. And both you and I were high on Utah and bet it. But now it's kind of like I'm seeing a line which wasn't 3 before the season. Now it's 3. My line's 3. My power rating's 5.5. But if I was setting a line on this, I would put Utah minus 3.5. It's so interesting to me that kind of both teams didn't really. And you're right, Laramie is. I will definitely say Utah has had the hardest schedule. So I'm with you just based on numbers, but I'm still a little bit worried, and I want to learn more about this this front because UCLA has just looked so bad.
This will be a really good data point going forward, projecting the rest of the season. I'm really hoping we get a good showing, not just for my weekly wager, but I still have a futures ticket on Utah 18-1 before the season to win the Big 12. So really important game here for that.
Super important game for that. And, a lot of people, like we said, were high on Texas Tech. Utah number 1 in offensive line yards. I mean, they really pushed it around so far in the trenches, which is really cool to see. They rushing success rate, they're number 1, they're number 7 in offensive line yards. Same, really correlated there, those two stats. Offensive rushing PPA, 7th. They're running the ball really well. They're playing Whittingham type football finally again, right? So that's what makes me love about them. And that's what makes me really excited about them. I am just wondering, I'm just thinking that is Texas Tech going to show their true colors? I don't know. Utah is a tough place to play. I wish this was a night game, right? I wish this was a night game, but still should be good enough to do during the day. I'm with you on this one. I agree with the -3, and that thing's moving. So be careful with that. Let's pick another game. SMU versus TCU. I wrote -6. Is this already? It's there's a few -6. I wrote 6.5. Sorry. That's what I'm calling it. And if you can't get a 6.5, then I don't like it as much. I just want to say that right away. And I would wait it out because there's going to be money coming in on SMU. I just know it because of the rivalry. But I took 5.5 with TCU on Sunday, and I like it up to 7. This is going to be like an old rivalry coming back, right? I love this rivalry back in the old, I believe it was the American days. And the Mustangs have not looked good. They replaced some serious positions, running back, all 3 wide receivers, their whole defense minus a player or 2, Josh. This SMU team is looking bad for a reason. It's because they are not returning the guys that were so high and so good last year. The only guy you can kind of trust is Kevin Jennings, but I think it's Kevin Jennings versus the whole TCU team who's coming off of a nice bye, right? And look, I saw that a bit of that Baylor game. Baylor outgained them by 150 yards. This should have been a much bigger loss for SMU. The other 2 data points for SMU was against Tomato Cans, Missouri State, who's a little better than people thought, and an FCS opponent, really less than impressive. Your net yards per play is only 1.16 after having those to boost your stats. That's pretty bad. TCU went to North Carolina not scared, put it on them. Right away, go down 7-0. Boom, put it on them, and then they put it on the next team, have the bye. 2.37 net yards per play. They ranked 7th offensive success rate. This total makes me say I can lay points. When you see a total this high, there can be margin done. I laid this 5.5. I like it at 6.5. I say find it at 6.5 and jump aboard.
Yeah, and I will say too to all the listeners, we don't compare notes before the show. We're not just trying to get some group think where we agree on everything. This is absolutely a TCU play here for several reasons. I already have this play in pocket. We are forgetting the embarrassment that SMU put on this team last year, 66-42. But you know who hasn't forgotten about that was TCU, and they're out to exact revenge here.
Right.
We're not hearing a lot out of SMU camp on Kevin Jennings, but he got hurt in the Baylor game. And then if people didn't watch the entirety of the Missouri State game, that they ran a bootleg for him with about a minute and a half left in that game, and he got hurt and had to be carried off the field. He is hurt. They're not saying anything about it, but he will not be fully mobilized in this. I think TCU comes after Jennings. They rank third nationally in defensive havoc. They excel at getting to the quarterback and creating negative plays and creating adversity for opposing quarterbacks. He's not going to be able to get out of trouble here. You look at TCU. Hoover has been incredible at quarterback for TCU. And the guy to watch, they have a major, major dude receiver in Jordan Dwyer, who came in from Idaho. I would anticipate a ton of success for TCU throwing the ball. TCU has been excellent defensively in early downs, and the Horned Frogs are just allowing 3 yards per rush along with a long all season of 17. So you're not going to see Jennings run the ball. He didn't do it against Missouri State. He's not going to do it here. The kicker for me, SMU, a very heavily penalized teams. 26 accepted penalties against them for 270 penalty yards. You're not going to win a game of this magnitude while being heavily penalized and continuing to be behind the chains. And if you give TCU freebies, as we saw in the North Carolina game, they're going to take full advantage here. TCU's a better football team. They're stronger. They're going to remember the embarrassment of last year. This is absolutely a play on the Frogs here at home.
100%, man. Glad you're with me. And no, we do not compare notes. And we happen to pick the same game. So, and so I added another one to keep it the 6-pack. But this is probably the Big Ten game. Well, actually, there's 2 Big Ten games, right? It's Illinois at Indiana. Maybe we'll touch on that later. But Michigan versus Nebraska. Nebraska is plus 2.5 at home dog. Total 46.5. Woo! We both are on this one. So, Josh, since I went first on SMU, you go first here.
Well, I can just see a couple of different things. I think that Michigan's road trip to Oklahoma will help them in this situation, but Nebraska's not a team I would really want to line up against at the current time. If you've seen any of the pressers, if you've seen the way that they've played in their last 2 against Akron and Houston Baptist, Nebraska is no holds barred. They're a really motivated bunch. They are trying to maximize every snap. And it's a real good barometer for both teams. I think that with Nebraska over the last 10 seasons, we have seen so many times inept play in the red zone and careless turnovers have handcuffed this team for years. And it appears that Matt Rule finally has those things figured out. They're not turning the ball over. They're executing in the red zone. And a couple things. I don't think we're going to see a lot of pace in this game. I think both teams are going to really be methodical offensively. I like Underwood, and I think that he'll improve as the season goes along, but I still don't know yet that he's had enough time in the seat to really play that much better than he did against Oklahoma. He was just 9 of 24, 142 yards, didn't throw a touchdown, and no team has thrown for more than 70 yards in a game all season against Nebraska. Nebraska's allowing just 8 of 38 on third down, and I just can kind of see Nebraska locking in defensively here and playing the field position game. Might be a little of that eastern Nebraska wind that kicks through at game time, which could help. But my official play on this game, which I actually have made, is I took Michigan's team total under 24.5. I think we see a low-scoring bout. Michigan may win, Nebraska may win, but 24.5, I do not believe that they will exceed that. I've got this as like a 21-17 type game.
All right. Well, there you go. Like a low scoring game. And that's very possible with these defenses looking so good so far. But it's not just the defenses. I think that Nebraska's offense is finally kind of come around. And to be honest with you, I am taking the 2.5 with Nebraska, my friend. And I know Bobby was on Michigan, but he also might do a little Nebraska money line correlated parlays, or not correlated parlays, but round robin. He put RR there, round robin. All right, so he might do some round, and I get that. Here's the thing: Michigan had a great opportunity to make some noise in Oklahoma, but what I saw was Bryce Underwood being Bryce Underwood, a freshman, right? And it was a loud SEC environment, loud crowd. But what the heck do you think Nebraska is? That is going to be a very loud environment. I believe it's a late afternoon game, which means it's going to get dark towards the end, especially in the second half. And those Huskers, they know how to drink their beer, and they're going to be very loud. And it's going to be just a very turbulent environment for the young freshmen there. Dylan Raiola has grown up, in my opinion. He's played very well so far. He's not putting the team in bad positions. He was tested some against Cincinnati. Cincinnati was able to backdoor that cover, but if you watch that game, there is no doubt that Nebraska was not in control the whole time. And Cincinnati's turned out to be a decent team anyway, so far. It's hard to compare stats because Michigan has had harder opponents with New Mexico and Oklahoma, but I will say that my power ratings are just too close on these teams. I have them very close. I have them, if you even want to throw in Illinois and Indiana, I have them all pretty much bunched up. I'm taking the points here, and I took 4.5, I took 2.5, and I'm waiting to see if this coach here in Sharon Moore is going to keep his job, because I believe he's a lame duck coach that was replacing Jim Harbaugh. That's almost impossible to replace. And until Bryce Underwood can prove to me that he can win on the road in a tougher environment, I will be fading this team. I'm taking Nebraska plus 2.5. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and the other interesting element, too, is Sharon Moore is not with the team. Biff Poggi is coaching the team, and Sharon was not able to participate this week in practice. So there are some things going on with Michigan that are just going to make it a little bit of a jerky operation for your weekly preparation. So they're just going to have to operate a little bit differently. But the other bottom line is you're going on the road in conference for the first time, and you have a true freshman quarterback who just hasn't had enough time in the seat.
Absolutely. And you like the first half under 24.5, you said?
No, Michigan's team total under.
Michigan's team total. Okay, I want to write that down. TT under. Okay, next, we are moving on to West Virginia versus Kansas. Kansas now 13.5, so I had to write it down at 13.5. I might have a little bit better than that. Total 54.5. I mean, here's the thing. They blew the game. Right, they blew the game against Missouri. Kansas did, as we saw. And I was on Kansas. I had great money. I had a great number. But this is a few weeks back. These kids have had 2 weeks now to think about this. 2 weeks bugging them. There's some drop passes by the receivers, misleading final score, stupid play at the end where running out the clock. They let the guy get through, and that happens. You're running the clock out. The guy busts through and he gets a touchdown. That happens more often than people think. The Mountaineers, real strong at, or their only strength, not real strong, their only strength, and it's kind of a strength, is rushing the football. But, dude, why would you only have 4.6 yards per rush when they haven't even played a tough schedule, man? I mean, Pittsburgh, sure. That was, and if you watch that game, Pittsburgh gave that game away. Kansas, they've proven to me that they can put up points, and this is a big spread for a reason. When you saw West Virginia beat Pittsburgh last week, they rushed the field like they won the freaking championship. They just got into the college football playoffs, man. A little early for that against Pitt. Come on, guys. Little early for that. This whole rush the field thing is getting a little obnoxious, Josh. Seriously, It's like Rutgers beats Maryland. Should they rush the freaking field, dude? Seriously? That's kind of how I feel about these teams. But Kansas ranks 19th in offensive success rate. West Virginia ranks 77th. The Jayhawks rank 13th in defensive rushing EPA. Defensive rushing EPA, 13th. That's why West Virginia is not moving the ball. They're going to throw some picks. The Jayhawks stop the Mountaineers easily. This is a blowout situation with the letdown spot. I'm taking Kansas minus the 13.5 for 2 stars.
Well, it's a complete letdown spot, and just situational capping will call for West Virginia coming off of a home victory in a big rivalry game in the backyard brawl, a game that they had really very fortunate to have won. Pittsburgh gave that game away. They were up by 10 points with 4 minutes to go, couldn't close it out and couldn't score in overtime. And so that's just the way that one went. Kansas is off the bye. Now West Virginia comes in. Looks like a real downer spot for West Virginia. And I think we'll see this Kansas offense humming. I think we'll see Jaden Daniels get back to what he wants to be on offense. They were kind of limited a little bit at times against Missouri. Missouri did a good job bottling him up in the second half, but this West Virginia defense, I think, stinks. Your best receiver for West Virginia is out. Your best running back, Jaheim White, is out for the season. Just kind of running with no bullets in the chamber if you're the Mountaineers through the kitchen sink at Pittsburgh. I don't see him having a lot left in the tank this week. Kind of a spot to maybe exhale and party a little too hard there in Morgantown and go out to Lawrence and get your ass kicked. The other thing too is you're going to get some rip-roaring Lawrence wind. And if West Virginia is not going to be able to run the football, as you just alluded to with the prowess of Kansas's defense stopping the run, you're not throwing the ball in that 25, 27 mile an hour wind if you're West Virginia. They won't be able to move the ball at all here in this situation. I might have to take a harder look at a West Virginia team total under because I don't see how they move it here.
Not just that. Jalen Daniels can run the football, as we've seen a million times. And that's going to be, he does not throw the ball and he runs the ball. That's going to get them plenty of yards in that situation. Yeah. Could be windy out there in Lawrence. So definitely keep your radar on that game. Keep checking the weather. Some of the best angles is when the weather changes and people don't know it's coming right on Friday night, Saturday morning. Get in early and always check the weather first. Let's move on to the final play, the 6-pack, and kind of a sad one for me, Josh. A little bit sad. Wisconsin versus Maryland. It's really Maryland versus Wisconsin. -10. Wisconsin's a home favorite of -10. The total's 44.5. Wow. That's a big line move going up to Wisconsin. I was trying to find out what the hell happened here, and I think it's all about this Billy Edwards revenge spot. He transfers from Maryland to Wisconsin, and you're like, why is it moving this much on a – and first of all, what has Maryland done so wrong to Billy Edwards? It's like the whole team was kind of in shambles last year, but that's not Maryland's fault. That's not – I think that this number went way out of whack, and that's why I had to grab it. There is no revenge here. There's nothing that he did wrong, and there's nothing that Maryland did wrong. The data on these teams is very skewed because Wisconsin played a very good Alabama team, but other two teams they played were Miami, Ohio, and Middle Tennessee State. Might as well be FCS teams. Dude, why are they only 0.08 yards per play? This Badgers team. It's like, yeah, you played Alabama, but the other two outliers, you're sitting there at almost dead even yards per play. And looking at the advanced metrics, it's pretty bad too. Maryland played 3 cupcakes, but at least they're over a yard, 1.28 yards per play. This line moved just based upon the fact that people assume Billy Edwards is healthy, but we don't know that. He couldn't even play against Alabama. I don't know that. And if it's O'Brien in there again, oh my God, that guy he can't play quarterback. There is just enough data points for me from last year, when they lost 5 games in a row at the end, to right now to know this Badgers team should not be laying 10 points against Maryland. This should be a 6-point game tops, just because of the hope that the Badgers can run the football. But the Badgers are a little bit banged up on defense too, with Renfro hurting. This tempo that the Badgers play, 123rd in the league. That's slow. 33 seconds in between plays. That's not a lot of time to get margin. I'm sorry. I have to go against my team, man. I took the 10.5. It's down to 10. Maryland's also has a solid run defense this far. I'm taking points.
So let me ask you this, because Maryland could not run the football against Northern Illinois, and Maryland won the game big against Florida Atlantic because FAU threw 6 interceptions and were stopped on down 5 times. So it's almost equivalent to 11 turnovers. How many points is Maryland going to score on that defense if they can't run the football and they have a true freshman going into Camp Randall in that environment on the road trying to get the ball down the field? I just would like to know how many points Maryland is going to score here, because with the side and total, the way it is, you're talking about a game that's going to be projected 27-17. Looks like an under here. Looks like a game that the Wisconsin defense can control. They play some field position. I gun to my head right now, I honestly, if I knew for a fact that Edwards was going to play, Danny O'Neal, I want no part of. But Billy Edwards, I would lay it. Now, I just want to know how many points Maryland is going to score because I fear that they won't be able to run the football, and now you're putting a lot on the shoulders of a true freshman quarterback.
Well, that true freshman looks decent so far. And yeah, the Northern Illinois game was a little bit weird. I will say that, they did outgain them. Northern Illinois looked bad against Holy Cross, but I kind of feel like they're just kind of saving it for this game. Because if you remember that Northern Illinois last year went to Notre Dame at this time and beat them. So that's what that was on their mind the first game. I don't know how good Northern Illinois is because there's not enough data points. And I feel like they saved it for Maryland and still lost by double digits, 11 points. I'm more worried about Wisconsin scoring against Maryland, to be honest with you, because Maryland right now, not allowing many points to anybody. Third string was in when Towson scored. This is a dead under probably. I think you're right. This is a dead under game. And right now, if you're still seeing it at 44.5, it's probably a good call too. So when I like the under, when I like the dog, it usually means I like the under anyway. So it's starting to get juicy, minus 118 under 44.5 on DraftKings, but great point on that. And yeah, I think that there's a good chance that this goes way under. Bobby coached was a football in Western Kansas. When he first moved out there, the AD said, "Yeah, we run the wing tee, and we always will." I asked why, and he said, "Wind." So there you go. That's why. That's what it does get windy on the flatlands. There's just no mountains or hills to stop that wind coming through, and that's why it's such a tornado place, right? It's a very windy place in general. Hodgepodge time, my friend. And wow, there's some awesome games to talk about. I think I don't want to talk about Rice Charlotte too much. Tulsa, Oklahoma State on Friday, Josh. I know you liked Tulsa for a while, but what's funny about this Oklahoma State team is that this is one of the worst Oklahoma, and I thought last year was the worst Oklahoma State team. This is the worst Oklahoma State team I've ever seen. And before you came on the show, I was talking about ATS margin. Well, they're third worst at minus 22 ATS margin, and they've only had 2 games. I mean, Coastal Carolina's 0-3 with minus 24. I mean, if you add like a fictitious third game here, they should be like minus 32 points. ATS margin by far the worst, according to market expectations. I mean, do you hold your nose and take Tulsa here? Oh, my God.
I did. Now, I bet it on the opener when it was 14.5. I still would consider Tulsa at 13.5. I don't see a ton of separation here, and I really don't see a spot for Gundy where he's going to be able to rally the troops during the bye week and try and resurrect their season. There's no bowl game they're playing for because they're going to get just demolished throughout the rest of the way. And I think this is a spot where this game will mean a lot more to Tulsa than it will to Oklahoma State. I don't think Tulsa's an overly good football team, but we've seen them play better than the final score of their last 2 games. Against New Mexico State in week 2, they had 4 straight drives in the first half that crossed midfield, and it was 0 points. Last week against Navy, they were up 14-0, couldn't hold on, had a couple turnovers. Navy just bled them to death on the ground, 65 rush attempts, and took control of the second half, as Navy has a propensity to do. But, man, this is one that head coach Trey Lamb, you talk about a program-defining win or a way to really put the mark on your program early for him to go into Stillwater and give this group a tough game. I think Tulsa can do it. I think they have some pieces offensively that they like. Defensively, they'll at least provide some resistance against the run. Oklahoma State's quarterback dude that they like, Haas Hejny, is out, and so now you're rolling out a backup quarterback who I think was projected to be the third stringer at the start of the season. So I don't know that Oklahoma State's going to have a lot of punch here, and it's going to be hard for this group to win this game by a margin. So Friday night, nothing else to do. I would absolutely lock in here and take Tulsa.
Unfortunately, it's moving down, and here's the thing. My numbers don't say it, and I probably didn't adjust it enough. I had a big adjustment at Oklahoma State, but I mean, after Tulsa played New Mexico State, I lost a lot of faith, so I had to adjust them down a little bit. But if I had to play this game, it'd be Tulsa and maybe even Tulsa money line in this situation. I could see a lot of things happening.
Let me ask you this, because you can still get the Power 4 teams in the regular season win market. Oklahoma State's numbers 4.5. They win in 5 games on that slate?
No.
They go into Kansas and winning? Are they beating UCF? Are they beating Cincinnati, Houston, Arizona, Baylor? Are they beating Texas Tech? Any of those teams? Like, where are the 5 wins coming?
Where's 2 wins coming? 2 wins. I mean, where's 2 wins? And where's that 4.5?
At DK.
At DK, huh?
Yeah, Jesus. You can go Oklahoma State under 4.5 right now.
And they have
where's 5 wins on that schedule?
Do they have 1 win right now or none?
Yeah, they're 1-1.
Okay. So they need 4 more wins, basically. Yeah, I agree. That's probably a great play. I mean, we get so invested in futures and they keep popping up, but money's money, Yeah, wins are huge. Oklahoma State, it's got to be juiced, right?
But go to your power ratings quick, and I'm assuming you have Oklahoma State power rated worst in the Big 12.
I can go to my wins on my power ratings and just see what their current win total is, where they're at. So let's do that. Let's
because I don't have Oklahoma State within a touchdown of anyone else in the Big 12. I have them as 6.9 worse than the second bottom team, which would be Central Florida. I have Oklahoma State
3.22 wins is what I have right now based on their power rating, which I'm still too high on, clearly, because I'm above the minus 11.5, 12. So that's just bad. I mean, that's a better play. This under right now.
I'm locking it in.
Why not?
On the show.
Yeah, let's take it. It's crazy too high.
I'm going to lock this in. This is officially on the regular season win card for the Duck.
Yeah, it's 150, but so what? I mean, I am way off for a unit. Yeah, I'm going to lock it in for a little bit here. All right, let's move on. I mean, Syracuse is 17.5-point dogs at Clemson, but I don't want any side in this after what happened to Clemson. I have no idea where their minds are. I just wanted to bring it up. We don't really need to discuss this game, but let's get to Iowa Rutgers. Iowa is now getting up to 3. They're like a minus 102, and Rutgers on the back end at minus 118. Does this keep going? I mean, I kind of like Rutgers here. I don't think Iowa can move the ball that well, and it's not like Rutgers hasn't let us down this year some, but this is Iowa, man. It just takes one turnover for them to lose a game, right? There's so margin of error is so small in this Iowa team that they could lose. And Rutgers, not a great team, but hey, after that ugly, what did we find out about Ohio? They're better than people thought, right? I mean, they beat West Virginia outright, as we called it. And, so that's not the worst 3-point win. I kind of like Rutgers.
So my concern would be this spot now becomes exceedingly critical for Iowa, because if you look at what they have coming down the pipe, this is a game they have to win just to try to get to a bowl game. You look at still having Penn State, Oregon, USC, Nebraska, Indiana on the schedule. They win in any of those games? I don't think so. And so this one, if you want to go to a bowl game, you have to go to Piscataway and beat this team. My concern for Rutgers is they can't stop the run. They don't get pressure on the quarterback. This is such an atypical Greg Schiano coach defense that has been shredded. Well, they were shredded by Ohio, and then Miami of Ohio moved the ball on them. And so I'm concerned here about if Iowa can run the football and lean on their defense. I don't think Rutgers can run the football here. So now you're going to have to put a lot on the shoulders of Kaliakmanis to throw the ball and throw themselves out of tough situations. They do have 2 good receivers on the outside, DT Sheffield, and then I think it's Kerr is the other guy's name. And so they do have, KJ Duff and DT Sheffield. Those are the 2 guys. So there is a chance that they can, but I fear in the late stages they're going to be putting a lot on Kaliakmanis' shoulders because they will not be able to run the football on Iowa. I think Iowa can run it on Rutgers. So interesting game, interesting data point. I think Iowa is a really desperate team right now. So if you're into that sort of thing, like a team that's backs against the wall has to have it, because if they want to go bowling, this is one they have to notch.
Yeah, they sure do. um,
But
I
that doesn't mean I've made a play on it. It doesn't mean I love Iowa. I'm not giving this out as the blue horseshoe play or any of that stuff. This is just kind of I think there's a chance Iowa could have some success.
there's a chance, but this offense is just so bad. Like I said, the margin of error is bad, and they're on the road here. And Rutgers, they're better than people think with Shiano there. Believe it or not, they were really high in returning production. And you're right. Which quarterback, according to Bobby, do you trust more? Neither. But if I did trust more, it'd be the guy that's playing in the Division One FBS, Clay Manis. That's the one I would trust more. So, yeah, it's a great question. But here's the thing. I'm gonna let this marinate. I don't need to rush into this. I'll wait all the way till the freaking game time. I have no reason. If it goes back 2.5, whatever. I don't need to play it. We got enough plays. You don't have to play everything. These are just leans and just discussion points. Arkansas.
If this were to blow through 3 and go to 3.5 or 4, would it concern you that maybe Rutgers may not have it, or would you jump in at 3.5?
If it went to 3.5, I would just think it's still a paranoid market move. I trust what I've seen in the Big Ten. I trust myself more than anything, and so, but here's the thing. If this was like Marshall against Charlotte, I'm not quite as bought into those teams because I focus so much on the Big Ten and the MAC and teams that I've been close to. And obviously down here a little bit in the Mountain West more than before now that I've been in Arizona in the last 10, 12 years. But when I know something, I don't care what the market did. I'll take the numbers that they gave me. And that's why I took Georgia Tech at 7.5. I thought it was a freaking birthday gift last week. I was like, you seriously? And, and I was right.
That way.
And then some people say, "Oh, the market's moved too much. That means fade." Well, how'd that turn out for Tennessee or Georgia? It didn't turn out well. And so we can't always go by the market. We got to go by what we did a lot too. Trust yourself if you put the work in. Yeah, I think that's an important point. And it doesn't mean you're going to win, but we've lost good bets plenty, and we just know that it should have won. Now let's move to Auburn, Oklahoma, who. I mean, this is another revenge. Jackson Arnold going back to Oklahoma. I mean, what are you going to revenge? The fact that 4 wide receivers got hurt last year? Maybe your coach was kind of a spaz. You can make all these storylines for Oklahoma in this, but the truth is that he's just going back to his old school that probably paid him some money. Maybe they should get revenge from him. It's these angles and these media things can become a little bit out of hand. What I do know is that I do have this as a closer game. I don't have it 6.5. I have it 4.5, if that. I really think that these are pretty equal teams. But Oklahoma, their home field advantage here, especially on a late afternoon game, could be pretty steep. But I'm waiting on this again. Why would I grab a 6.5 when I can grab a 7 later, right?
Yeah, if you want to get the best of the number, that would be the thing to do. I think this is going to be an interesting test for Auburn, really their first real test. Oklahoma defensively has really turned the corner, 3.5 yards per play and just 171 yards given up per game. Only 17% allowed on third down, 7 for 41, and only 1 red zone touchdown in 3 games. Their third nationally in defensive success rate, 7th in finishing drives. This defense has really done well this season. And so I think that they can really make it tough on Auburn offensively. Auburn has really lacked the downfield passing explosiveness this year. So I don't think we'll see a lot of chunk plays from them. I think their chances, if they can have Jackson Arnold scramble around, break down the defense, and pick up first downs with his legs, because just to line up and run the football, I don't think they'll be able to do here. So kind of think this is a tougher matchup. I think in a couple of weeks we'll look back. There's a chance we might think the 6.5 was a bargain. But I'll be honest with you, too. I'm also lower on Auburn. I've got them as barely a bowl team. If you look at what they have coming down their schedule, they play OU this week, and then A&M, Georgia, Missouri, Vandy. How many times is Hugh Freeze going to get Pavia? I mean, he's already had it happen 3 times. Right. And then they conclude their season with Alabama. So I've got Auburn as a fringe 6 or 7 win team. And I don't know, man. I haven't been exceedingly impressed with what I've seen from Auburn this season. So I would lean Oklahoma to win the game, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to cover the number.
Right. Yeah. They really opened my eyes against Baylor. It was interesting to see Jackson Arnold run the ball so well. This Auburn team, under Freeze, I expected them to get better. I really expected that. But I didn't expect the offensive coordinator coming with Mateer from Washington State to be this good in the SEC right away. I also think Mateer's kind of got that magic to him. And I hated on him a bit, and I was probably a little bit wrong. But he does have that magic to him that gets things done. I feel like both trenches are pretty good, against maybe this is kind of an under. 47.5 is kind of high. I feel like this could go under. Maybe that's the better look, right? I didn't bet it, but just kind of thinking out of the box.
Probably a slow burning grinder, yeah.
Tulane Ole Miss. Look at this game. This is a spot for Ole Miss that I don't think terrible scheduling spot for Ole Miss. What are you doing? Tulane's a solid ass program. Summerall over there. And then you're scheduling them between Arkansas and who the hell they play next week? Someone really good. LSU. Between Arkansas and LSU, you got Tulane just sitting there. This is a play on Tulane or nobody. I think money's coming in on Ole Miss, and I don't know why. Who is Ole Miss impressed this year? Sure, they're covering a spread against Kentucky. Okay, Kentucky, last week they all got outgained by Arkansas. They got outgained last week. I mean, I wouldn't lay it against Tulane.
Yeah, Tulane has been very fortuitous with turnovers, short fields, stopping opponents on fourth down. Duke really gave them some easy opportunities, and we saw Northwestern do that in the opener. They don't really run the ball effectively outside of Retzlaff, who's scrambling around making plays with his legs. I don't know. I have got to give Tulane some credit. They've been better than expected, but I think at some point some of this fortuitous play really turns the other way. They haven't really turned it over, and they've forced a ton of turnovers, and I just don't know. Is Tulane going to be able to go in there and stop the run? Are they going to be able to move the chains? This isn't really a look ahead, in my opinion, because this is a major old-time rivalry that dates back to 1893. Tulane at one point was in the SEC, and Ole Miss does take this game against Tulane pretty seriously. So we'll see. Nothing would really surprise me. Tulane could go out there and give a spirited effort and lose the game by 6, or they could lose by 3 touchdowns, and nothing would really surprise me.
Okay, let's move on to, dude. I am waiting on a 14.5 with Coastal, or a 14 on South Alabama to lay it. But the truth is my number is way past this. I think Coastal Carolina is generationally bad. Okay. I think they are freaking terrible. And I still think the market has not caught up. I want a 14, of course, because I'm greedy. But I think the reason that it's 14.5 is very telling to me. And it's still below 17. I just think that South Alabama might just clean house against Coastal.
You look at Tim Beck's tenure at Coastal Carolina. In his first season, he was able to live off of Jamie Chadwell's former team, and they did pretty well. Last year, they started to slide, and they really weren't getting the breaks. They didn't have the offensive punch. And then this year, they scored 7 points against Virginia with a garbage time touchdown. They scored 13 points against Charleston Southern. What the hell are you doing messing around with Charleston Southern and you can't put it in the end? Shut out at home by ECU. Very, very bad. Can't run the ball at all. Coastal Carolina has already pulled the plug on MJ Morris, and they went to Tad Hudson. It's not working out. This team can't do anything offensively. Only 13 out of 42 on third down, have had very little success in the red zone. In fact, 7 red zone opportunities this season for Coastal Carolina. They have 2 touchdowns. Just not working out real well for them. They can't run the ball successfully. They just not a lot to draw on. I'll be honest with you, in this game, I've got 2 plays already in pocket. First thing I did was I bet the under at 52.5. And I bet Coastal Carolina's team total under 17.5. I don't think Coastal Carolina scores. I don't think they can accumulate 10 or 12 first downs. I don't think they can throw the ball. And South Alabama is going to hammer this team. You're absolutely 1,000% right. In my opinion, this is a play. The line is telling at 14.5. It's begging for Coastal Carolina money, and it's not going to come in.
It's not going to get it. It's not going to get it. I think this is a contest play for me. Just to let you know, I haven't bet it yet, but this will be a contest play for me. Laying it
could be a margin call play. Could be one of those where you take South Alabama alt lines minus 20, minus 24.
So let's do
27.
this. I want to cover more games, but yeah, there you go. Alt line minus 20, something like that, 20.5. So I love that. That's a great idea. Wait for those outlines to come out and see what happens. Illinois, Indiana. I can't believe this is up to 6. What the hell? I mean, no respect in Champaign. I think it's wrong. The line should be 3.
Feels like a low-scoring defensive battle where Illinois can stop the run.
You there, Josh?
Yep, I'm here.
There you are. I got you back.
Just seems like one of those lower-scoring field goal games. It feels like a field position game where Illinois can go in there and stop the run. And Illinois' defense only giving up 2.6 yards per carry and 74 yards per game on the ground. Illinois, 12 out of 38 third down conversions defensively, so they're very strong in the money downs. And also just 2 out of 6 red zone possessions have ended in touchdowns here. So, yeah, I completely think that Illinois can go in there and at least make this game competitive and close. Just feels like maybe the last team that has the ball kicks a field goal to win.
That's what I agree, too. I mean, Illinois has already impressed me, and Indiana, they're riding on last year, and Indiana hasn't beaten anybody yet. So we'll see what happens. 1 sentence per game. Florida, Miami.
I think it's an under. Low scoring under.
Low scoring under. All right. Georgia State, Vandy. This is a revenge spot for Vandy. Minus
revenge spot for Vandy, but also a major exhale spot. I think Georgia State can keep this one tighter than expected.
All right. This worries me because the kids at Georgia State could kind of feel like they could actually play this game because they played it last year. Same guys, kind of, right? Not so much Georgia State. Vandy returned more than them, but it's a weird thing. I don't like Vandy laying big points. I like them in the underdog role. Okay, so that's I think it's important to think about that. Let's see here. Washington Apple Cup, is that worth talking about? 1 sentence, 20-point spread roughly.
Cougars are in major trouble the rest of the way this season. Devoid of talent, not a good football team. I think the Huskies beat them big.
Cal, San Diego State. Cal in kind of a letdowny spot. Kind of a San Diego State good coach, I think, but they really looked like crap when they went to Washington State recently, and that's where they lost that game, right? What happened there?
Just that game snowballed on San Diego State quickly. I think they look a lot better after the bye week, and I think that they can give California a tricky, close game at home.
Bobby took UW minus 10.5 a few weeks back. Well, there you go, Bobby. That's what I'm talking about. Use your numbers, my friend. Good job. Michigan State, USC, 17.5. I'm looking at Michigan State personally. I think that their quarterback can keep them in this game. USC's defense hasn't showed that well for me. I thought they let Georgia Southern score enough to make me kind of like, what's going on here? At Michigan State, Maeva is okay. I don't think he's great. And this could be just one of those Michigan State punches you a little bit in the mouth, just kind of the way they did against Boston College. It's not like they didn't deserve to, they kind of deserve to lose that game, but this is 17.5 points here.
Really makes me think that this is a high-scoring affair. One, I think Michigan State could possibly keep it a little closer than the 17.5.
All right, Josh, and Hawaii plus 2.5 against Fresno.
No, I'm fading Hawaii the rest of the way out. I think Alahado's going to play, but I don't think he's fully recovered from the high ankle sprain. Hawaii's offense is so jerky. They're not efficient passing the football. They can't run the football. Their defense is very good, so I think it'll be lower scoring, but I think Fresno goes out there and wins.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on to our beer bet banger for the week. And I'm going to give you one that is kind of stuck out a little bit to me. It's Florida State to make the playoffs at plus 270. I mean, I look back at my Georgia Tech bets. I actually bet them to win the ACC at 14-1, which is fine. And maybe they're playing Florida State because they're going to play Florida State or Miami. You know, Georgia Tech avoids Florida State, Miami, and SMU. But now I guess Cal might have got a little trickier. We'll see. But Florida State to make the playoffs at plus 270, and they host Miami. They're the ones that host Miami, you know? So I think that gives them a little bit of up. And sure, if they can go, they might go lose to Clemson. But Florida State, pretend it's between Bama and Florida State. Pretend they have both 3 losses. You can't, in good conscience, take Bama over Florida State when they lost to Florida State. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Armageddon would go through. They would have to just find a way to get Florida State in and sacrifice somebody else. They would maybe massacre the, I don't know, is group of 5 have to get a team in? What if they all suck? I don't know the rule on that, Josh, but I just feel like somebody's getting sacrificed and Florida State's going to make it.
Yeah, group of 5 will get a representation in no matter what. There's going to be somebody in there.
Hello?
Yeah, not sure what's going on with the internet.
Okay,
Apologize.
yeah, I thought so too. I mean, but I still think plus 70 with Florida State's my beer bet banger. I think that's going to roll in. Either my internet or your internet's going bad. So I'm going to do a quick test here while you give us one.
So beer bet banger. Let's take a peek here.
I mean, it could be any plus money. Like if you like an underdog, you know, any sprinkle would be fine on that too.
All right, I got one for you. East Carolina will beat BYU this week on the field. No points needed.
All right, dude. That was gonna be my mine for Friday's show.
I'll use it.
I like it, man.
I'm telling you right now. So you look at ECU real quick. You look at ECU. I really wanted to love this team before the season. I wanted to think of them as a real surprise in the American. I just couldn't get there due to the flippant nature of them holding on to the football, or turning it over, I should say, and some of the stuff they lost on defense. But we've seen Caton Hauser perform really well, completing 72%, 5-1 touchdown to interception ratio. They're spreading the ball around really nicely. They're converting excellently on third down. Defense has really stepped up against the run. They've been lights out on the money downs. East Carolina, pleasant surprise. They're going to beat BYU this weekend. Take that plus 205, 207 on the money line.
I love it, and I will be on that as well. Josh, you've been awesome as usual. Please tell our listeners and viewers where they can get your great information in place.
Yeah, so I'm at the Action Network. I host the G5 Deep Dive with Michael Calabrese. I'm a writer, so I do 10 to 12 articles a week there. I appear on the BetUS live show, Twitter. Kiev and I do spaces routinely on Fridays. I've been on this program a lot. I'm a lot of places, so not hard to find.
All right, make sure you check out Duck, Mr. StepONADuck1, Josh. He is everywhere. Josh, we'll be talking in 2 days for this contest.
That's exactly right. See you later, Kiev. Thanks.